Welcome to the Novice to Office podcast. I am your host, Trey Bam. My wife and I have been taking some trips recently, going to places in Texas we've never been. So, no podcast, but enlightenment, rest, and personal growth, all of which enhance the quality. We went to Padre Island and we decided to go out and see the rocket pad belonging to the world's richest man. What's less talked about is his lithium facility down there south of Corpus. He's building this massive place for his vehicle batteries. So we'll see if lithium, what kind of an addition it becomes to the Texas coast. And speaking of people who want to cut costs, this episode is dedicated to the congressional budget process, both in light of recent events and our last episode. And there's two aspects that every concerned citizen should pay attention to, which I'll mention. But what are we talking about? Congress, of course, has the power of the purse granted to it by the Constitution. It uses the word appropriation for spending and ways and means for raising revenue. Ways and means is a late 18th century euphemism for tax. And there are two committees in the House named after these things. The Senate uses finance instead of ways and means because only the U.S. House can generate revenue. The thinking being that they're closer to the people. Well, people being people, those appropriators and those ways and meansers over time would start having a tug of war, regardless of partisan affiliation. Anytime there's money going in and money going out, there's going to be an argument. I don't care who you are. It got bad in the late 19th century. They created the office of majority leader to try to be a traffic cop on this. By the 1970s, the difficulties in the budget process caused by these tensions between appropriators and tax creators came to a head. It got so bad that they called it dysfunctional, and that's saying a lot for Congress. Also, at the same time, during the presidency of Richard Nixon, the issue of impoundment came up. Basically, President Nixon didn't want to spend all the money on a specific grant, so he decided not to disperse it. There was a lawsuit that followed, and the money got stuck or impounded within the executive branch. The Supreme Court later ruled that the president can't frustrate the will of Congress. So then the Budget and Impoundment Act of 1974 was passed. They tried to address impoundment. There's still debate over that. But the lasting effect of the 1974 law was a process to make it easier for appropriators and ways and meansers to sort things out and reconcile their efforts. It does this by creating a special budget resolution that both chambers pass, just like a regular bill, but they only have to pass it with a simple majority since it's not going to the president, and it can't be filibustered, therefore. Then, if that's approved, they can pass what's called a reconciliation bill. And the only means that a minority has to slow it down is that it's limited to 10 years. This is due to a procedural point of order called the Byrd Rule, named in honor of Senator Robert Byrd. And so, therefore, this 10-year limit is called the budgetary window or budgetary projection. And the numbers that come out of that are where you get the rhetoric. So someone will say, this budget cuts $5 trillion. Well, what they mean is it cuts $5 trillion over 10 years, not right away. And again, the whole process can be changed in the next year. So the different political parties will use the budget resolution and the process really as propaganda. And we should all keep this in mind. This is the first thing. So, for example, a Democrat will say this budget resolution eliminates the deficit in 10 years. Well, what they didn't say was that it includes a tax to do that. Republicans will also say we're going to have this reduction in spending because we're going to have economic growth over the next 10 years. Well, that's a projection. We don't know if it's going to be growth or not, or how, or what rates. Anyway, they vote on this resolution. Then the reconciliation bill comes up, and that's a bill actually signed into law by the president. And the other resolutions are just administrative, as I said. But the reconciliation bill can't be filibustered, just needs a majority. President Trump has called this year's planned reconciliation bill a big, beautiful bill that combines both taxes and spending for the coming fiscal year, which is October to October. Currently, the resolution just approved by the House by only 2 votes has the tax piece in it, while the Senate does not. So they've got a ways to go to get them to match. The House tries to find savings through Medicaid, the healthcare entitlement program for the poor. They're trying to scale back how the program was expanded under Obamacare to allow able-bodied adults to participate. The issue is free healthcare under Medicaid versus subsidized through healthcare.gov. So, Republicans think that able-bodied adults should be able to get it through healthcare.gov. Still, also President Trump has that no tax, or the House resolution has President Trump's cut to tips in it, which again cuts revenues by almost $4.5 trillion. Musk and Doge think they'll save money. That's pretty vague, but we'll see. The Senate is usually loath to cut programs like Medicaid because they don't want to anger their larger constituencies, especially the rural ones. Republican senators especially need those rural votes in their states because out there, hospitals and providers are completely dependent on Medicaid. This is the case in a place like South Dakota, the current home of the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune. So the House resolution also tries to find savings in food stamps and welfare, or SNAP and TANF, respectively. You can find savings there, but like we talked about in our last episode, you're not going to get serious savings there. We'll continue talking about that. We'll talk about smarter ways to find savings in the different programs, kind of how they work, why they cost what they do, in our continued episodes. So be sure and like and subscribe, and you'll get alerts. Until next time, keep it free.